Hi, everybody, and welcome to The Spiritual Activist. We've got an incredible show for you today. We have a returning panel who is just absolutely amazing. So I'm going to start off by welcoming David Pagan from Kick-Ass Dad. How are you, David?
Doing fantastic, Mike. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for joining us today. We've got Jay Forty from the Greatness Zone. Welcome, Jay.
Hey, everybody.
Great to have you. And
Thank
Kelly
you.
Marceau from kellymarceau.com. How are you, Kelly?
I'm doing well, thanks, Mike.
Great, and we're going to jump right in here today. We've got a really powerful topic, and this is something that's been on my mind a lot lately. And it's this idea of competition to collaboration. So what does it mean for a spiritual activist? What does it mean for somebody who's trying to create energy in the world that is going to breed better experiences for more people? So starting with you, Kelly, what is your kind of 2-minute shtick on why it's important for us to begin to move from competition to collaboration? If you do, and if not, please hit me there as well, because I'd love to hear the alternating viewpoint. What's kind of your take on this from a spiritual activist perspective?
Well, when we're pitted against each other in competition, it's really challenging. And like, from a spiritual perspective, I don't know. Like, I think that if people were working together toward everybody's greatest good, it would be it would be awesome. Like, I see this a lot, like with women, for example. Like, when you're talking about companies, it's a little bit more difficult to navigate. But when you're talking about like relationships with women, I see a lot of women competing with one another rather than actually collaborating or bringing out the best in one another. And I think that as a whole, like, there's a way for people to get what they want without having to bash against one another.
No, I think it's powerful, and I think we do that far too much, obviously. But I think that's the thing. I'm actually working with a gentleman now, and we're working on launching a podcast for him. And so one of the interesting things is he sees another podcast out there about the same thing, and our first gut reaction is, But why don't we start thinking about how we can begin to collaborate with people who are actually on a similar mission to us that we can then fuel each other? It's very interesting how we've gotten into this idea, and I do believe that competition can sharpen us. Like Amy Alcini was a competitive tennis player for a very, very long time, so it can bring out the best of us, but I think there's got to be a way to find kind of that balance on how we utilize competition while utilizing collaboration. What are your thoughts on that, Jay?
Well, I think, Mike, it speaks to the mindset of lack and plenty. I think in a collaboration mindset, it's a mindset that says there's plenty, there's enough for everybody to go around, and that we each have our own unique abilities, and our unique abilities allow us to find our unique spot. And I think the concept in competition says there's limited supply, and if I don't get it, nobody will get it. So I'm kind of thinking what it feels like to be sitting at the Italian table, and this big pot of pasta comes out there, and if you don't grab it first, then once it makes it all around the table, there's not going to be enough for a second helping. But, a deal, this is what my brothers and I used to do. We used to make a deal about who would take what first so we could then collaborate on, how would we get a second helping out of this thing. So to me, it's a fundamental perspective, I think, on the mindset of fear and lack versus plenty and adequacy or plenty. I'll just call it plenty. That from a spiritual perspective, we are collectively one. So why am I in competition with anybody? Maybe I'm in competition with myself to show up as my biggest self, but I can't imagine that the thing that I need to do is to make sure that I get it so somebody else doesn't. In a world of 7 billion people, there's plenty of space for everybody to find something that has their ability, and if you're close to somebody, then there's collective genius with us, collaborating with people to do the perspectives that we join them and then show up bigger because of all that we know.
So where does this idea of, and that's a fundamental kind of thinking process, right? So believing that there's plenty to go around versus believing that there is scarcity in the world. And I mean, you look at our entire political system from trickle-down economics and on, how it's based on this idea of lack. It's based on this idea of scarcity. So you're saying if a person were able to kind of shift their belief system and see more abundance, then there would opportunities for more collaboration and abundance would appear. And that's just completely not how our current economic system works. So, that being said, David, why don't you tell me what your thoughts are? Kind of give me your 2 minutes on competition versus collaboration and how we can. It's like one against the 99%. How do you turn this thing around?
Well, I like your whole idea of the fellowship of the ring. You find someone on the same mission, just join forces. It's going to be better, right? You can cover more ground. You can cover each other's back a whole lot better. We've run into that in business and in our personal mission with CAD, with Kick-Ass Dad, found people that are trying to do the same thing. And we did have to make that shift in our mind state, right? And in our intention as to what's our actual mission. Let's take ourselves out of the situation here, because that's what it was. It was our ego, like, man, someone else is already doing this. That's another dad blogger or whatever. And then kind of getting upset about it, going, you know what, maybe there's a way for us to work together. And every time we've done that, it's worked out extremely well. My personal take on it is a little bit different as far as because I'm the community guy, right? I like people. I like to socialize. So I see a lot of selfishness in that, obviously, because of people thinking about lack and not having, or having before somebody else does, so that then they can be in control of what happens with it. And when you have that state of mind, it's so easy to ignore everybody else because really because of the way our society is, right? We're all kind of locked in. We've got our access to the internet. We have our TVs, our air conditioning. Once we come home, there's really no need to go outside. And who wants to? Certainly in Florida, I don't want to. It's hot as hell right now. So people tend to just stay inside, right? So they don't get to know. I mean, it's a sad idea, but most people don't know the people that live in their neighborhood, They don't know the people next door, not very well, certainly not 4 or 5 houses down the street. Therefore, when there's an opportunity for you to benefit from something, and even if it either causes discomfort or harm to the other person, it's so easy to do that and benefit yourself a little because there's no connection to that person or to those people that you see on TV. They're just images, just like the fake movie that you watch or the cartoon that you watch. So there's no real connection. So I feel in order to have this sense of collaboration, it really comes from, this is just me personally, it comes from a sense of family, a sense of community. You can't hurt someone, or you wouldn't, chop down this tree if you knew that tree was a peach tree or an orange tree that belonged to your cousin and they love oranges, or they need the citrus because, I don't know, your nephew has scurvy. Your nephew has scurvy or something. I don't know. So you don't. I'm trying to bring scurvy back. People don't drop that enough.
Leave it, David. We don't need to bring it back.
Just the phrase. I don't want anyone to get stricken with it. But so I think really changing that mindset and your intention and looking at everyone like brothers and sisters, mothers, fathers, and getting out there and making them so. You have more of a mindset of collaboration, and I think it'll change things on a large scale, on a worldwide scale.
Where did we lose that, though? Like in American society, for example, at what point did we lose that sense of community? What happened to that, and what's the deal? Jay, what
MySpace.
MySpace.
No, actually, I think it was the economy moves us. Anytime, if we want to watch what's going on with any kind of trending about where our thinking is, look at what our economy is doing. So 100 years ago, we were agrarians. We were farmers who met and hung out and helped each other on the farms. And then we decided that it'd be nice to have some things, so we became manufacturers, and we shifted out of the farms and into the cities. And we became far less personal and far more, I'll just use this word, coggish. We just were behind the scenes, where what you thought about and what mattered to you was not important in the bulk of the day the bulk of the time you spent in the day. And we're in this renaissance now, I think, of welcoming that thinking back as we've shifted yet again in economies out of an industrial manufacture, make things kind of age into today's this intellectual provide service kind of age, because the concept of contact, personal contact, is back. But the weird thing that happened in this one is that everybody is now in it. It's Tom Friedman had a book, The World is Flat. And so with the arrival of technology, then all the borders and boundaries that we used to have that would say you couldn't be in our country, we have the best academic environments, institutions, we learn more than everybody else. And when those borders left because everybody had access to technology, we now have created a more level playing field. So though this is a period of great personal contact, this is also a period of anybody being able to do it. If you want to try and get a URL for a big idea that you have, 9 times out of 10 you go on it, somebody's already got it. So even though we are back into a period of personal contact, we are in competition for ideas that come from that period of pure personal contact. To me, it's very strange how I understand how we moved. I don't know how we got here.
I have an idea. I mean, I think that when we started moving into individualism, people wanted things for themselves. You know, like wanting the glory, wanting some form of an idea or something to be about what they put out or what they wanted to have, rather than it being a collective. Like, this is a prime example of what a collaboration is. Like, we are talking about a specific topic, and no one is going for the glory. Everybody's just trying to have a conversation about what's really going on, and we're able to do this because we're awake beings who want to really authentically understand. And so when it comes to, when you first asked me this question, you know, it was so broad, I didn't really know exactly what, you know, you were going into, because we have competition on the personal level, and we also have it in how we do, you know, business and commerce. And, you know, me as a writer, for example, like, there are tons of people, like, on this planet writing about sex and relationships. And you could go to any one of those people, but it's just about, you know, the voice that someone has and if it speaks to you, and not one voice is going to speak to everybody. When people contact me because they want to collaborate with me or they want to work with me, I'm super stoked because I don't know everything, and I don't want to know everything, and I'm not out for my own self-interest. And so I think that, like, when it comes to, you know, collaboration, you know, versus competition, it's about two different mindsets. One that's all about the individual and what a company wants to gain for themselves, and then about people actually wanting to go toward a common goal, or to be able to work together for something greater than just the individual.
That's powerful. And that tends to create so much more real advantage to the entire group. And I think one of the things, yeah, Jay mentioned that, you know, the agrarians, you know, the farmers, and then moving into, I wonder if when we moved into that farming age, was that when it happened? Because I think we used to be tribal societies. We used to be hunter-gatherers. That was our modus operandum for hundreds of thousands of years. I mean, that was what we did. And then it wasn't until 10,000 years ago that we stumbled upon farming, and now we start to capture pieces. This is mine, this is mine, this is mine. Now, you know, you have the Native Americans who, they had their own pieces of land. They didn't declare war on each other. They were erratic retaliators. There would be aggression, there would be scuffles for certain areas, but they still collaborated. They still worked together. Whereas it's almost like, you know, now we're in a position in society where we've got all of these people hoarding all of this. I can't remember what I read, but it was a while back, and it was like talking about the richest of the rich, and you could fit the richest of the rich into a high school gymnasium. And, you know, what do those numbers in that bank account mean? If you convert those numbers to pots of food, if you convert those numbers to cans of food, now you've got 1% of the population hoarding how much food? So where are we in this society? Why have we decided to land here? And I guess the real question now is, how do we turn it around? I mean, if we're serious about our own personal awakening, if we're serious about the fact that we believe we're all created of the same, you know, material of the universe, then damn it, we got to get our shit together. So how do we do that, David?
I think we show by example. You know, nobody wants to be first. No one, you know, if you Google something and you look at a few different links and one of them's got 2 million hits and another one's got 5, you're going to go with the one that's got, you know, 2 million hits because you think those people must know something. So I think we, you know, by what we're doing right now, like the way Kelly said, you know, we need to collaborate in business and on missions like this one, you know, to wake people up. And when we show them, like, look, we were able to collaborate. Some of us had the same mission. Some of us had different agendas. We collaborated, and look at how successful it was. There was enough for all of us to eat, you know. And when that's seen, they were like, wow, so I can work with these other people. I don't have to do it all on my own. Because let's face it, doing it on your own sucks. It's hard. You know what I mean? I would much rather go into a battle with, you know, a few Spartans, all of us back to back, than to me just go in by myself, swinging a broadsword. You know what I mean? Everyone can cover each other's back. That's the way our business model is Kick-Ass Dad is designed. You know, we have 4 partners. You know, we collaborated all of our networks, all of our resources, all of our efforts into doing this, and it's turned into something that we never imagined. You know, and that was also one of our missions when we started this, was to not only collaborate and show the world that things can change from, you know, change hearts, change minds, change the world, but also change the way business is done. And I think we've been successful in a limited sense with that so far. We still have a lot more work to do, but I think, you know, the best thing we can do is by being activists and leading by example, just doing it, and then once it works, show people that it works and show them how it works.
Thank you for that. What about you, Jay?
Well, you know, it gets me thinking. I wonder if so if we talk about collaboration, we're really talking about community, right? Mm-hmm. So I wonder if the reason why collaboration is waning is that the perspective nowadays is you have to either believe what I believe or you're not part of my community. So, you know, I know we talk about a religion and church every now and then on this show, and I wonder if part of the shift to this I'm right, you're wrong. In fact, I even think about it, you know, looking back through all of the years where religion stepped in, and what it created was a sense of community for those who believed it, and then a sense of right people and wrong people and good people and bad people, and it did this very good job of not saying people. It did a very good job of selecting who's in and who's not in. And if you're not in, then I have to do everything I can to destroy you. And I'm not sure where that thinking came from, but that I think is kind of part of this whole understanding of what competition means. So I'm in the workplace all the time. So when I listen to companies talk about how they're going to compete with another company, the competition part isn't, I'm going to go head to head with them and show my best. Their comments are generally, how am I going to destroy them? You know, so that thinking says it's me or you, and collaboration says it's me and you. And if we look at our fundamental building blocks of where society is now, and I'll throw church in there, and I'll throw government in there, that I don't see the perspective as there's a you and me, there's a you or me. Mm-hmm. And so if the core fundamentals, the cornerstones of the pillars on what we build is about there are winners and losers and haves and have-nots and goods and bads, then until that mindset changes, I think every structure we build, right now, I think every structure we built has built that, has reinforced the fact that there are some who are chosen and some who are not.
So, and to your point about religion, I mean, that's certainly been the case. It's been the case in politics, Republicans versus Democrats. You look at the Gaza Strip right now. I mean, we're talking about, you know, people who just can't seem to get along. Well, why is that? It's because of this fundamental belief that it's you or me. And that's what's kind of tearing this thing apart. Kelly, what are your thoughts?
Oh man, that's a tough subject to address, because that is a completely different mentality than, on some level, what's going on in America. Fundamentalism is extreme. You know, they're fighting over this Holy Land, and you know, it's really intense, because on some levels, like, you know, the Jews now live in Israel, and whatever was going on in the past, or however all of that stuff happened, if they don't move out of the past and actually deal with reality as it is now, there's going to be conflict and war for a long period of time. And that's the whole, you know, in some ways, we were saying earlier, you know, competition isn't evil, but when it's damaging or harming other people, to the degree of what's going on in the Middle East, it's I don't know, it just doesn't work. People die, horrible things happen, and yet we still use the same tactics to solve the same problems.
Yeah, it reminds me of that quote from Einstein: "You can't fix a problem with the same consciousness that created it."
Right.
Right, and the thing is that, you know, they're fighting over, you know, this land, and at some point somebody has to be the bigger person and realize what's really going on, instead of constantly creating havoc and try to find systems that actually work to where on some level it can benefit, it can benefit like a larger community and a greater community, but it's difficult when you're dealing with religious ideologies. And, even if there was some kind of peace treaty and like they let people in or whatever, that causes its own discord too. It's a really difficult thing to solve, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think, and you're absolutely right. It is a very challenging thing to solve. But you bring up a great point, and it's kind of that scarcity mentality, right? They're living on old belief systems. So, how do you evolve, or inspire people to begin to believe things that are going to benefit them and others? I mean, that's really what it comes down to. We struggle with that in the U.S. I mean, it's the same fundamental belief structure that's causing what's going on in the Middle East to what's going on. We may feel like some of our things are more petty. Sometimes we feel like we're a little elevated when it comes to that sort of thing, but ultimately it's the same fundamental belief, is it not, Jay?
I think the fundamental is that we have some thinking that we have inherited that now guides our decisions. And in the absence of thinking about it, our decisions, we roll right in through react instead of respond. Then all that thinking that could challenge a perspective that we may have understood why it came up, but it no longer serves us. That's the line we talk about in greatness coaching all the time, is how does this serve you? If at the end of this competition goes to break everything down, and I guess the answer to that question is it's not serving you. And if that's the case, then it would be for the thinking mind, for the present person, for the conscious individual to say, well, then what else are my options here? If I could put this in advance, if I could just move it on the side for a minute, how might I be able to see all of the rest that's available, because maybe there's another solution here? And I think in that we would start to see that some of the things that we truly rely on, that this mindset of scarcity and I have to compete, there's only a certain number of slots and I want to have one of them, is the mindset instead of, well, I know there are 15 there, but if I look elsewhere in the world, there's another 30 here, 50 here, 100 here. There's plenty of room for me to get into a college of my choice, into the school of my choice, into the dance club that I want. There's plenty of that. But our mindset to go in is that it has to be what I want and it has to be this way. And I think we're just carrying old thinking. And if we could poke it, stop it, challenge it, just consider something else, we may see that there are other options that we just have not considered.
Thank you, Jay, for that. I appreciate that. So what about you, David? From your perspective, what are some things that you felt like in poking the kind of the scarcity stick in your own brain? How are you starting to resolve some of these issues for you?
For me, it kind of reminds me of the Twix commercials that they're putting out now. The right and left Twix. They feel like they're so different. They're after the same market. So to speak. And they're, like Jay was saying, they really limit their perspective by thinking, they have to be better than the other one, or we have to take their customers, as opposed to taking a step back, like, okay, you guys cascade chocolate, we pour chocolate over ours, right? If we were to work together, both of our customers love chocolate, right? They love all this stuff, right? Our factories are really close together, at least in the commercials. If we were to work together, we could split the cost of packaging, shipping, materials, all this stuff, and at the same time, double our exposure, right? Because now I have all of your customers, you have all of mine, and then we make it grow from there. So for me, I generally associate things with experiences I have in life or things that I see or something funny to kind of poke fun at our limited perspectives on things, right? Just to look at it from a different perspective. So for me, that's what it looks like to me when people don't want to collaborate. You look like the two foolish people arguing over which Twix is better, the left one or the right one. And so, I try to look at it like, okay, I'm not great at everything. Kelly made that point earlier when she first commented. She gets pretty stoked about people wanting to work with her now. I do too. I didn't used to. I used to be a real competitive jerk. I mean, when it came to business, I would stomp you into the ground, and I wasn't happy until you got out of that business, right? That was just all sales, 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 and that's what I was taught, and that's what I thought I saw in the people that were successful, right? but that was just the flashy successful people, right? The people that were really, really successful collaborated their asses off with people, you know? So it wasn't until I started seeing that and I saw it actually kind of starting to work, I was like, okay, I wonder how I can apply this on multiple levels in my life when it comes to relationships, right? If I have a best friend or friend, like I used to get upset when someone, you know, called them their best friend. I'm like, no, that's not your best friend, homie. That's my best friend. Go get another friend. There's like 3,000 kids at this school. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or, you know, in a relationship, wanting all that time to myself, or in business, wanting everything to myself. It's a lot of work to do that. So I found that, you know, I try to just apply that Twix mentality on so many different levels. I prosper on all of those levels now.
Kelly, would you mind sharing? Thank you, David. Kelly, would you mind sharing with us? Is there a personal story of your starting to wake up to this idea of competition versus collaboration? Like, what was it for you that you started to open your eyes to? Well, why are we competing, and how can we create more synergy by working together? What was it that opened your eyes?
Well, I think, to be honest, it's, for me, inside myself, like, I've always been aware that, like, these ideas, even if I have them, they're not my own. They don't belong to me. Whatever inspiration I draw from the world, or whatever I see in reality, or any of those things, it's not mine to hold on to. And so when people come to me and, like, they want to work with me, or they want to collaborate, or they want to, you know, they want to add to something, I'm always really open to it, because I think it's really great. Like I said before, I don't know everything, and I've never subscribed to the whole every man for himself mentality. Like, I think on some level, people, they have something to prove to themselves, or they want to do something, and they want to do it really well, and they want to pour themselves all into that, and I think that that's really beautiful. But there's a way to do that to where you don't have to limit yourself to the experiences that you can have with other people. Like, I can stand in my own right as a writer, and I can be judged, and I can be attacked, and I can, you know, have people tell me that I suck at spelling and grammar and everything else along with it, and I can receive all of that, but ultimately, it's like, I am who I am, and I do what I do, and there's other people out there who are who they are and do what they do too, and I'm not in competition with those people. Like, it's not a competition. Life isn't a competition. It's just for me, like, how well do I express my own uniqueness? Because, you know, there's nobody like me, just like there's nobody like Jay, there's nobody like you, Michael, there's nobody, you know, like you, David. It's just, and that blend is what makes humanity, that diversity is what makes humanity so beautiful, is the ability to be in the same world with the same stuff, the same things, and have some unique expression or some way to look at it that's a little bit different, and just be, you know? I mean, that's like really like, that's really how I feel about that.
That was a stunning description, really, Kelly. Thank you for that. And you said at the end, just be. And that's one of the things that I find so often in myself, that I'm in such a rush to do, that I forget to be. And it's really what I'm being, and the energy I'm putting out into the world, and how I'm experiencing other people, that really causes those greater experiences. Sometimes we just have to get out of our own way, and allow ourselves to just be, to just feel, to just be present, and we find ourselves just transforming our lives and our experiences, and to see the, you know, when people's eyes light up, you know, when they do something that helps somebody else. And it's like, you know, if you're depressed, or if you're sitting on the couch right now and you're struggling just to get out of bed, the number one thing you can do for yourself is to go do something for somebody else. It will reignite the fire that exists in you. It will reignite that piece of divinity that is lying dormant, because that's the thing. We've gone off the grid. We've gone off the deep end. We've disconnected from one another to a point where we no longer care what happens to people that are just images to us, or that are just in our media and in our worlds. And you look at the tabloids and all that sort of stuff, and you see it's just vying for competition. And, you know, we want to see people succeed, and then we want to rip them right back down. That's our base nature. That's our animalistic nature, but that doesn't have to be who we are. And I think that's what the spiritual activist is about. And I think that's what we're all showing pieces of what we stand for. So I certainly thank you, all of you, for that. And quick, we'll do a 1 minute final thoughts around the room on collaboration versus competition. Jay, would you start us off?
Yes, I mean, Kelly said it best too. I mean, we're each unique, and there's room for everybody to show up as their biggest, best, and most creative self. When they're not in competition with people, but they realize everybody else is on that same kind of road. You know, what is it that you do to be yourself? You know, so we go back to the Rhodium rule. So know yourself, be yourself, and then help everybody else be themselves. And all that it does is allows the world to have this bigger, bolder, more robust perspective. There isn't a shortage of things. It's your brain has told you it is. But if it's told you it is, there's an equal probability you can say that what I heard, it's just not true. There's plenty here. So how do I then go and support other people to find out for me and find out for them?
Thank you, Jay. Beautiful. David?
You know, I'm a people person, but I found, and actually with a lot of Jay's help, if you don't know how, you know, if you want to get away from this idea of competition, you want to collaborate, you don't really necessarily know where to start, and kind of in line with what you were saying, Mike, is get out and help somebody else. Mine is a little different. Go, you know, seek somebody out, whether it's in business or relationship or in the neighborhood or friendship, whatever it is. Meet somebody, whoever it is that you're thinking about collaborating with. Let them know what you're good at. That's all. Ask them what they need. You know, how can I help you? That's all you got to ask. How can I help you? They'll start listing off the things. You're going to learn a lot about the person or about the business or whatever it is, right? And then see, you know, when you hear the thing that you can, you know, help out with, say, I can do that. I'm good at that, right? And then take that and just watch the dominoes fall, you know, or watch the snowball get larger. It works just as easy as that.
Mm-hmm. And I think, and you make a great point. I was listening to an interview with a gentleman a while back, and he was talking about, he's an actor, and he was talking about how that's how he broke into acting, was just being the guy that was willing to go volunteer and run coffee and do this, whatever he had to do just to help. And then he began to meet the people, and then he started to ask more questions, and then the more questions he asked, the more he was able to help people get what they wanted. And then people have this thing called reciprocity. It's been, you know, this is our tribal culture, this is our tribal ancestors, and we want, when somebody brings you a gift, you want to return, you want to give a gift back. So the idea is the more you do for somebody else, the more they're going to want to do for you, and that's what really gets these balls rolling. Thank you, David. That was beautiful. Kelly, you got final thoughts?
Yeah, I think that in so many ways, our individualism, you know, we're isolated sometimes in our individualism, but at the same time, we're dying for connection. And collaboration can offer you a form of connection where you can see other people's ideas about things and really just allow that to sink into you so you can really form for yourself, you know, what you feel or what you want or whatever, because it's not going to be the same as everybody else. Like, everybody has a uniqueness to them, and most people don't really actually take the time to get to know what that is because they're too busy looking outside of themselves at other people, what other people think, or if someone's better or whatever, and there's this constant comparison. And the reality is, like, all of that is just chaos. It's just noise. Like, if you can just be inside of your own self and, you know, let that sort of shine forth, I think that, and be able to experience other people, I think that that's pretty awesome and pretty enriching.
That's great. Thank you so much, Kelly. You guys are a phenomenal panel. I could not be more humbled and thankful for each of you for being here. If you could do a quick run through of how our guests can find you, starting with David on the left.
Kickassdad.org on Facebook, Kickassdad. If you're in the area, we've got meetup groups actually popping up around the country, so look for them, Kickassdad in whatever city you're in.
Thank you so much. Jay, how do we find you?
You can find me at thegreatnesszone.com and on Facebook with the same name, The Greatness Zone.
And don't forget to check out your podcast on iTunes, The Greatness Zone. Kelly Marceau.
Thank you.
You can find me at kellymarceau.com.
Lovely. Well, I thank you all so much for being here today, and we'll catch you on the flip.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.